The 2025 Swimming World Championships are just about to start, or depending on how long it took me to finish this video or how long it took you to watch it, they may have already started. I already previewed my women's race of the meet, the showdown between Katie Ledecky and Summer McIntosh in the 800 freestyle, but now this is my men's race of the meet, the 100 freestyle. This event is absolutely loaded with talent right now and has the potential to be one of the fastest fields that we've ever seen, and it's headlined by the two most recent world record holders, David Popovici and Zhanle. Even just looking at the Psych sheet, things are ridiculous. We have 3 sub 47 second swims on there, and the top seed is of course Pan's world record from the Paris Olympics, clocking in at 46:40. Behind Pan, David Popovici, the former world record holder in this event, ripped a new personal best of 46:71 less than a month ago, so we know he's already firing on all cylinders. Rounding out the top 3, American Jack Alexey is the newest addition of the 46 second club with his 46:99 that he blasted during the US National Championships earlier this summer. The next fastest swimmers are also entered with some insane times. Guy Carré became one of the fastest swimmers in this event's history when he threw down a 47:10 earlier this year. And of course, Kyle Chalmers has been a mainstay in this event all the way back to the 2016 Rio Olympics where he won the gold medal. He is entered with a time of 47:27 that he went earlier this year, and he's been 47:0 a couple of times before. This field is absolutely loaded. If we take a look at the top 10 fastest performers in the history of this event, 5 of them are entered to compete in Singapore. This event being this stacked is absolutely insane, but perhaps even more insane is the fact that even with that being the case, Zhanle and David Popovici still stand out from the rest of the field pretty distinctly. Obviously, these two are the only entrants that have ever held this world record before. Popovici broke Cesar Ciello's long-standing world record in 2022 before Pan took the crown first by a little bit at the 2024 World Championships and then by a lot at the Paris Olympics. Maybe the most interesting is that these two are the only two swimmers to ever break 47 seconds more than once. Every other swimmer that has ever broken the barrier never did it a second time, and these two have done it a few times now. Popovici has gone 46 seconds 4 times now, while Pan has done it 5 times. That is 9 total swims under 47 seconds, and there have only been 13 of those swims ever. So between these two, who looks like they're more poised to win a world title in this event? Well, Pan does have a pretty considerable gap over even Popovici, 0.31 seconds. That world record time of 46:40 from Pan is absolutely insane, and it's probably enough to keep him as the favorite until the final gets here, but there are a couple other things to consider. The first is what form will Zhanle be in at these championships? Like I already said, we know that Popovici is already in great form this year because he went a new personal best in the second fastest swim of all time with a 46:71. But how fast has Pan been this year? Well, not very. At Chinese Nationals, he won the 100 free with a time of 47:77, a time that in the world rankings for this year actually has him outside the top 10 at number 11. There are a couple of reasons to not put too much stake into that result though. The first is that Pan just needed to qualify for world championships at these trials, nothing more than that, and by winning the event, he did just that. The other thing is that there were a lot of reports of illness going around the Chinese athletes during that meet, and Pan definitely seemed to be affected, not just because the time in the 100 free was a little slower than some may have expected, but mostly because he seemed to get worse as the meet went on, which to me looks like a swimmer battling illness and maybe even getting more sick. Pan's fastest time of 2025 being 47:77 doesn't really move the needle for me in either way. It doesn't reassure me that he's gonna go crazy fast this year, but it also doesn't give me enough evidence that he won't be crazy fast. But for both David Popovici and Zhanle, there is one huge factor when it comes to coming out on top in the final of this event in particular, and it's something you've heard me talk about time and time again, and this is not going to be an exception. It's waves. This field is very fast and very deep, which very likely means that in the final you're gonna have a bunch of huge swimmers right next to each other, all displacing a ton of water, which creates massive waves that the field now has to deal deal with. This is an issue for Pan and Popovici in particular because they have a smaller build than your traditional huge sprinter. Now this helps them have beautiful technique and minimal drag in clean water, but does nothing to help them from being bounced around in waves like this, unlike a swimmer with more mass. This isn't just speculation, it's something that we've seen happen with these two before. In 2022, David Popovici won the world title in this event. In the semifinals, he unleashed a massive time of 47:13. Then in the final, while he did still win the event, he added a decent chunk of time, going up to a 47:58. Even in 2023, where Popovici had a bit of an off year, we still saw the same kind of pattern. He was a 47:66 in the semifinals, then a 47:83 in the final, and a lot of other swimmers in that field gained a bit of time there. For Pan, if we look at the 2024 World Championships, he led off the 400 free relay with his first ever world record in a time of 46:80. Then in the event final, like Popovici, while he did still win, he gained some time up to a 47:53. Now, there is a massive exception to this, and it's actually the catalyst for my biggest prediction as to how this event is going to play out this year. It's Pan's world record swim in Paris. Because in Paris, Pan led off the 400 free relay in a pretty speedy 46:92, which is actually the first 46-second swim in Olympic history. But then in the event final, he was over half a second faster in a 46:40 for his world record. So that kind of kicks my theory of these two going slower in loaded finals in the head then, doesn't it? So how did Pan manage to pull that off? Well, I think it comes down to his crazy fast opening speed. Pan manages to grab a solid lead of a few tenths at the turn, and an even bigger lead over the swimmers directly next to him that would create the most turbulence. This allows him to not get bogged down in the waves of the final. He's already ahead of them while everyone else has to fight through them, and he can build on his own lead. This is supported by the way the rest of the field played out in Paris. Behind Pan, most of the rest of those swimmers were a ways off of their best times, and they were incredibly bunched up. Second, third, and fourth were each 1/100th apart from one another. So how exactly does this inform my prediction for 2025? Well, I think opening speed is going to be absolutely required to try and hang with Pan. If he's reached escape velocity at the turn, it's probably game over. Chalmers and Popovici are pretty notorious back half swimmers, but you just can't overcome that big of a deficit on a swimmer of Pan's caliber, especially when you're now fighting waves on either side of you. And this appears to be something that both Chalmers and Popovici are aware of and attempting to improve. I say this because both of them have made some pretty serious improvements in their 50 free best times this year. Popovici has lowered his best time down to a 21:83 after never breaking 22 seconds before. Meanwhile, Chalmers lowered his personal best that he did last year of 21:98 down to a 21:68. If these two can keep things close at the turn, they might be able to give Pan a run for his money down the final stretch if they can keep their signature back half strengths. It will also be interesting to see what Jack Alexi and Guy Carib can get done in this event. They have the entry times to be a part of the conversation, and if they also try and jump on things right from the start, they could try and make a move of their own down the final stretch. Pan just might have the perfect skill set needed to pull off the strategy of go out fast and somehow also come home fast. He has a background as a distance swimmer racing the 1500 at a high level when he was younger, and that background might give him the ability to rip a really quick opening 50 without totally dying. With an entry time of 46:40, it probably isn't a hot take to say that Pan is the favorite to win gold in Singapore. Even if someone can try and make a move to minimize his opening advantage, he's just so fast that any swim from him even close to his best is going to be incredibly difficult to overcome. But while I have Pan as the favorite, he is by no means a lock. I mean, basically no one ever is, especially in a sprint event. And with a field this fast, it's going to be must-watch swimming. Who do you think is going to take the win in this event? And is that world record going down, or is it too fast for even Pan to crack? Let me know down below.